Talking of games, it's game on in the second encounter.
And once again, we get an opening that we've seen how many times now at the EWC. It is the Petrov, the Russian defense, but a more aggressive approach there with white striking in the center, a pawn swap, and something that we've seen a few times.
This is fascinating. Wei Yi was on the black side of this exact variation earlier against Sindarov. Now he takes the white side of this same opening. Just one small difference, the black queen moving instead of the black knight that's just developed, but ultimately the roads look very similar here. Petrov defense, definitely the most popular. It's just in vogue right now.
Very happy to play the same opening with both colors, which is absolutely fascinating here. And after that really intense game number 1 against Hikaru as well, I'd love to be able to read more into what Wei Yi is thinking and how the mind games are going to play into this. But as you know, Wei Yi is so unbelievably hard to read, possibly the hardest to read player in the 16 that we had going into this tournament. He is giving nothing away.
Well, he's given one thing away, that he doesn't fear Hikaru. Declining those repetitions, he's ready for a game on. Give him an opportunity, even in equal position. If he feels there's something to fight for, he's going to take on Hikaru Nakamura. And I think also equally impressive has been his clock management.
That's a great point. I mean, when we decide, for example, on a move of the day, does it have to be over a chessboard? Can we say that declining the repetition twice against Hikaru when you have less time on the... That is a statement and a half, right? For me, that's the move of the day already.
Yeah, especially if he goes on to win this match, Wei Yi, with the white pieces now. Hikaru shaking his head, living in the past. He'll shake that off at some point and start to refocus. For now, big questions about this position. It's level material, only one trade of pawns each side. Which way is the Black King going? That's the next step.
Well, if I had to predict, I'd say left side of the board. You know, get that opposite side castling going. Fan-keto your bishop, attack the pawn, get the H-pawn off the board. Let's be inspired by Alpha Zero. Well, at least as a commentator, I'd love to see all that happen.
Yeah, plenty of flexibility here. It does feel like Wei Yi, he's not trying to shut this game down either. Against the Petrov defense with white, you can play so many risk-free ideas. You can essentially force the opponent to be accurate. Yes, it might fizzle out towards a draw, but you don't kind of put too much on the line in the process. Here, all the pieces on the board, this one's going to be fiery later.
I love how much time he spent thinking about this. Rook E1 on the board, but 8 minutes and 5 seconds versus 9:15, so getting an early time advantage is Hikaru here in the second game, which is not something we saw him do in the previous game. He might be feeling a little bit more free, a little bit more relaxed, and I think he's realizing that actually the decisions I make too are also making my opponent nervous, even though I had a little bit of a wobble in game number 1. Now it's time to see how you fare when the boot's on the other foot.
Yeah, the first game of any day is always a bit nerve-wracking. Hikaru maybe just feels like he's warmed up after that previous time scramble. White bishop moves for a second time this game, pinning the black knight. A few targets there, but might have to trade itself off or just retreat right now. Will we see a big decision from Wei Yi? The Black King still in the center. Okay, he goes back with his bishop. Very odd little shimmy there.
Very interesting. And one explanation could have been that he provoked a pawn move, making sure that if Hikaru Nakamura does decide to go with the king long side, queen side, there will be a weakness to target, which will be the a6 pawn. So perhaps something to play for, and he just wants him to have a more cautious approach, get that king to the right side of the board. Bishop d3 gets a question mark, but an interesting opening approach. And what I like is that he didn't take too long.
Yeah, he didn't take too long, Wei Yi, but still down almost a minute. We'll learn so much from the next decision. Hikaru Nakamura, it feels like he's about to castle his king. If he goes to the right, he's playing safety first chess. He just wants to be solid. His king looks relatively safe over there. If he goes the other way, meanwhile, he was feeling much more ambitious. Opposite side castling, both sides will throw pawns later towards their respective enemy kings, and we're going to see just total chaos.
It does ask the question, right? Like Tanya said, a6 has been provoked now, so instead of needing a couple of extra moves, b4, b5 already asks the question. You're just one move quicker to be able to get that queenside attack in. And maybe that's the reason why Hikaru Nakamura has actually used his time advantage now. It's almost equal, but he does go queenside anyway.
He's saying game on. This is going to be fireworks very, very soon. And suddenly, Wei Yi's idea of retreating with the bishop makes sense practically, because like you said, a6 is a hook. Ideas of advancing the b pawn, the a pawn become even more attractive. Lining up the queen with the light squared bishop targeting that pawn on a6 is something for Wei Yi to think about.
Yeah, plenty of choice though for Wei Yi, and often in chess, especially in rapid chess, you don't want too many alternatives here. It means you burn time on the clock.
Here we go.
Before played, but apparently a big mistake according to the computer. Hikaru blows open the center now. Maybe Wei Yi's pieces just aren't ready for this action.
Oh, wow. I did not think... I was looking at b4, a4, thinking this is going to be relatively automatic, but look at this response from Hikaru. He has thought this through, played d4, and yes, okay, there's an open a file right now, but look at what's happening in the center of the board. That pawn on c3, the long diagonal, the bishop on g7 is suddenly going to come into its own. There are problems here to solve.
Many, many problems, and the Black King still has a lot of defenders around it, so should be relatively safe. Can Hikaru keep his extra pawn? That is the big question, the c3 pawn. If it falls, if the White Queen can take it next move, then it's game on. Anything could happen, but he does have this one move opportunity, Hikaru Nakamura. How is he going to make the most of it?
That's the big question, because queen takes pawn. I don't really see a way to defend that pawn. The white knight takes care of all the squares the black queen could jump onto to take control of that. Queen takes pawn's coming up. The a pawn's moving up the board. I get it. You have this entire army around the black king. You're feeling safe. But white king as well, equally safe. I am actually pretty surprised at how much of an advantage the evaluation bar is giving Hikaru Nakamura currently.
And I have just checked. The computer thinks black has the edge, has the big advantage after multiple moves. Long term, doing very well. Getting the queens off in certain variations seems to be the goal for Hikaru Nakamura, since white's pawns are relatively weak. The white pawn on e5, lacking defenders. The white pawn on a2, isolated long term. He just shuffles his king closer to the corner. Again, good tip for everyone at home. If you castle on the queen side, the long side, get that king nearer the corner. You tend to be safer and harder for the opponent to check you. But will Wei Yi now pick up that pawn that he's down?
Very tempting to do it, but the fact that he pauses while he eventually does take the decision, and Hikaru jumps in with a knight, wanting some trades, hoping to open up his own bishop at the end of the sequence. Knight takes knight. Will Hikaru want the queens off the board?
That is, we're getting a question mark associated with that move, but like many others before it, it looks so natural, so I'm guessing there was either a really strong alternative or we have some tactics incoming where we've got both knights under attack. Are we looking at meeting queen takes knight with... Well, no, you've got to take with the... Yeah, I'm not really sure what's going on there.
Yeah, we'll see it actually unfold on the board. There were actually some cool tactics. Hikaru could have won the white e5 pawn if he'd been a bit more accurate, but I don't think he necessarily wants to indulge in too many complications here. The queens leaving the board will give black a relatively stable advantage long term. I think he'll take the queens off now. So the question mark, because of a missed opportunity, not because this position is bad for black.
Okay.
Speaking of a long-term advantage, let's point out, for Hikaru Nakamura, he already has a passer, a passed pawn on the board. That's one that can't be stopped or blocked by an opponent's pawn. The C pawn that he has. Meanwhile, for white, there is no passer. You still have to create it. Because black does have the defenders right there. So again, endgames favor black. Healthier pawn formation, a target on e5. The rook beautifully placed on the only open line on that d file right now. Huge question to Wei Yi. Does he keep the complications on? Does he move the queen away? Or will he go for the endgame?
Yeah, big decision. Queens off the board looks likely. Hikaru does take them off the board, and a double attack, hitting white's light squared bishop, hitting the e5 pawn at the same time. If we do see a bishop for knight trade, that is a situation where the bishops will be super powerful long term. There we see the bar slide. The black light squared bishop is going to be the MVP most likely, unchallenged. White with weaknesses all over the board.
That must have been a very difficult decision to make, to give up your bishop pair.
It really is, because you take a look at white's bishop that used to be in and around b3, and you're thinking, oh, long term, that raking across the board looks like a fantastic opportunity for Wei Yi. But being forced to give that up for the knight, those dreams have now been shattered. And he's left with a position where it's Hikaru Nakamura's bishops that are causing all sorts of problems.
And that's not the only dream that's going to be shattered. At some point, Hikaru is going to line up the two rooks on the d file and just deny Wei Yi any opportunity to challenge for the only open file in the position. Right now, rook d8 on the board. How is Wei Yi going to survive this? Where will he find his opportunity? On the clock, it's level, but on the board, it's not.
This is Hikaru Nakamura in his element. I've watched his stream so many times. He loves these types of endgames. He loves grinding down the opponent. Pure strategy here, minimal tactics.
That's the most emotion I've seen out of Wei Yi all week. Oof. There you go. Thinking pose. The fact that he moved.
Seismic.
Yeah, he's 99 stoic instead of 100 stoic at the moment, but he really is in a lot of trouble right now, and he needs to think of a resource to climb his way out.
And the heart rate agrees with you. I mean, that's 130 right there for Wei Yi, so he's feeling the nerves currently. Hikaru keeps putting pressure. You know, he hit the bishop in the last move, doubled up on the D line. Now he's getting the bishop to h6 to attack f4. It provokes Wei Yi to push the g pawn to defend it, but that's going to make the light square so incredibly weak around the white king.
Oh, needs must though, and most likely Wei Yi will push that pawn forward. Hikaru was shaking his head. It was slightly confusing because his position is so good right now, but maybe just frustrated that there's no immediate knockout, but long term looking very good. And normally I talk about connect 4, but White's pawn structure less impressive this time. All on dart squares, a bishop blocked on dart squares, and the White king not going to be safe long term.
And you know, for most of us, it might feel like, hey, the material's balanced. You've got 5 pawns versus 5 pawns. You know, the pieces are still playing for white as well, threatening now to double up on the C line. Why is this so good? But it's not all that meets the eye. You've got the bishop pair. You've got the C pawn that will eventually move up the board. For Hikaru, this is a dream position, one that he can really grind down and enjoy for the next 30 moves.
The light squares just look so dangerous right now, and maybe that was part of the motivation behind playing the rook up to e3, because the moment white moves the knight, you have potential check on f3, followed by maybe the other rook coming into the 6th. Who knows what would happen in that sort of situation? So it feels like Wei Yi is surviving, but is extremely tied down right now and needs options, but he's not finding any.
This feels like the type of position you save like 10% of the time for Wei Yi. Maybe if Hikaru doesn't find a way forward, something concrete, then you survive, and maybe trick your way to a draw later, but you very rarely win these types of positions. Hikaru, a bit of a frown, maybe surprised by this last turn. He's trying to get the other bishop in, the raking bishop pair, threatening a nasty check.
That's very instructive. You know, you're constantly looking for more active diagonals for your pieces. First, he provoked white to push the g-pawn, activating the light squared bishop. Then he rerouted the bishop to a square where he can give it check. And again, it could be potentially a mating attack against the white king with both the rooks still on the board.
And it's one of those things where, look, Hikaru Nakamura, it's becoming almost easier for him to play because Wei Yi is creating those weaknesses that makes it easier for him to make these follow-up moves. And in a format like this where both players have 3 minutes on the clock, that's huge.
Yeah, Wei Yi shaking his head loads. He knows that he might be on the brink of elimination here. He drops back his rook. He's not the type of player who's going to sit still and wait for his fate to hit him. He's going to try and push pawns, as you mentioned, creating weaknesses in the process, but the black bishop's coming in. The black rooks have infiltrated. The other one's coming in too. Maybe to the 3rd rank, first to check. This looks devastating.
Don't move up to e3. That would be a checkmate in one. King e3 would have run into rook d3, so he blocks the check with the knight retreating right now. It's time anyway to bring that rook in, combine it with the power of that unchallenged light squared bishop, giving some big checks. White's king, surprisingly, in this queenless middle game, is in a kill zone.
Well, we saw on the left of our screens there, Hikaru was about to make that move. He kind of took it back, showing some indecision. The clock may be Wei Yi's best friend right now. He's up 10 seconds. It doesn't sound like much, but it is that desperate on the board. He can barely move a single piece with white. Huge threat on the board. He needs to prevent the black rook sliding across with a check. He needs to offer a trade. But Hikaru looking locked in here.
His spidey senses are tingling as he does move around his finger. He's calculating the lines. This is classic Hikaru Nakamura. He's thinking, hey, Chad, I got this. Take. This is how I'm going to finish this. And look at this beautiful calculation there. Sacrifices a rook temporarily to pick up that H2 pawn, to pick up Wei Yi's rook with interest on the next move.
Meme-worthy, you might call it, as he was pointing to moves with his fingers there. But that is a brilliant move, as indicated by our computer. Double exclam, because this pawn is guaranteed to drop. And skewer, yes, it's just going to be a pawn in the process, but that's a very important pawn. The defenses are slowly being broken. Wei Yi now losing his time advantage, losing pawns, losing hope.
When Hikaru starts bobbing his head like that and grooving to whatever is going on in his mind, you know it's bad news. He gives a check and another check. Hikaru Nakamura has calculated his way through. There's no way for the White King to stay connected to the White Rook. He's about to win the Rook back. He's won the pawn back. Hikaru Nakamura is about to go to the quarterfinals.
Yeah, it's not just a pawn he's won. He's about to give checkmate potentially if the White King missteps now. The White King has to go forward. You have to hope that you survive on the hill there in the middle of the board. Oh, but look at the white pieces, so stretched, so defensive, tied down, no light squared control. And Hikaru here just needs to put the finishing touches on.
This game is going to go down in every single book as how to play with the bishop pair. Every single chapter will have this one on display. What a power pack performance. Just finding those diagonals for the two minor pieces. And finally, that passed pawn starts rolling up the board.
There's no moves for white, nothing to do. You can try to create a passed pawn, but the black bishop's only going to slide back and conquer your rook. That rook will be overwhelmed and lost. Wei Yi, he might be hitting the resign button soon. No, he walks further forward with his king. If he's going to go down, he's going to go down swinging with that king.
But there are no entry squares. The e7 point controlled by the black bishop. You know, you might just be too brave to go there, but that might end badly. Checkmating idea still to always watch out for with the two bishops. Will Hikaru Nakamura give a check immediately? Will he make his rook a better piece right now? Start targeting the f4 pawn, which has been left undefended. But the clock situation, under 2 minutes. David, I don't think Wei is resigning. He's going to play this out till the end. He's going to try to make that miracle happen on the clock.
Hikaru is overthinking somewhat. A couple of darts of the eye to the clock. Looking a bit frustrated. Not in his free-flowing best, although he was looking confident a few moments ago. He's tanked. Look at that shake of the head. He knows he's frozen. He just needs to make a move. Everything is good. He attacks the knight. He's going to win some pawns. Even more pawns. This is good enough, but should have been better. Played 20 seconds ago.
Strong move, strong decision finally there by Hikaru. Took a while to get there, but he did get there. The bishop moves into a very passive spot, defending the knight. Hikaru really tying the white king to d5. One check and it could be over.
There's only one safe square for that white king to retreat to. Maybe now is the moment before it is too late, before you do get checkmated. The white knight wants to enter the middle of the board, but cannot safely. This is so difficult to find a move for Wei Yi. He pushes a pawn, desperation. The rook is hit, as we predicted earlier. Not many safe squares for that piece.
And always watch out for the other bishop sliding back, giving some checks. That rook needs to stay connected to certain other pieces. Whoa! A piece sacrificed there, but it could not have been picked up. The white pawn would have advanced one step forward, not allowing the black to defend against promotion. Hikaru simply recaptures.
He did not even calculate. That was impressive, Hikaru. He didn't want to allow any counterplay. The white rook saves itself. But now there is a hint. There is a small hope, glimmer here for Wei Yi with his e-pawn. Might be snuffed out though, this last move. Very effective. Oh, he's chasing the white bishop, repeating the position, Hikaru.
He can't do it. This is a huge advantage for him. He's up a pawn. He's up on the clock. Hikaru cannot bail out right now. He does continue playing. He believes in it.
He hits the white knight, but that white knight is defended. The king is the MVP for Wei Yi. It's not over yet. Look at the king marching. The e-pawn moving. Hikaru's panicking here.
It's setting in. That head shake, very different from the head bob we saw a few seconds ago.
The advantage is slowly starting to fade. Yes, that was a little trade of pawns. Yes, black's still up one pawn, but there is counterplay. The e-pawn is running. The black rook is just so offside right now.
Ignore the evaluation bar right now. This is a game for 3 results, and now the clock is leveling out as well. Look at Hikaru's face and you get to know the full story. It's the e-pawn, it's the threats of the white king. This is far from over. Hikaru cannot believe it. He's saying, move, move, move.
He's cursing himself, Hikaru. Look at the heart rates as well, both rising. Wei Yi is so excited because this is the closest he's been to saving this game in ages.
Hikaru's literally willing himself to make a move. He gives a check, but this is sort of putting the snooze here because the white king doesn't have too many squares.
Can he checkmate the white king? There's a double attack though, hitting the white knight and bishop. The knight gives up its life, but wow, he's blundered Hikaru. He's lost his bishop. Hikaru Nakamura is losing and he has no time.
He can't believe it, and he's under 20 seconds.
Wow,
he completely had this.
So close. Eval Bar says draw, but white has the pawn, white has the moves and the time.
And Wei Yi cool as a cucumber throughout the roller coaster.
We might see Rook and Bishop versus Rook, the hardest endgame to defend.
With 10 seconds, not possible to defend.
And Hikaru, he actually blundered there. There could have been a Rook trade, but Wei Yi's just playing for the clock.
And that's all he got to do. Look at Wei Yi, slowly, steadily moving towards the screen. He just needs to make sure he keeps the pressure on the clock.
Hikaru here pre-moving desperately. Wei Yi's messed up some stuff there. He's about to lose his Bishop. It's all about the clock though. 2 seconds versus 3 seconds.
The pawn
Pre-moves.
comes in. Oh my goodness, Wei Yi's about to get flagged.
He gets Hikaru's Rook. Wei Yi cannot lose, and it's a draw. Wei Yi times out. Hikaru saves himself.
Absolutely ridiculous end to that game. A winning panic in a winning position. The eval bar, the position. Forget that, the psychological warfare swinging between both players multiple times. There are many people who would say after that roller coaster ride, maybe a draw was the deserved result, but both players will be ruining missed chances in that game.